Most Jeep owners think this debate was settled years ago. It wasn't. Because when mechanics, recall data, towing numbers, off-road performance, and long-term reliability are all put side by side, one transmission wins almost every category. The surprise? It isn't the one Jeep purists have been defending for decades. The first thing they get wrong is the transmission itself. Most Jeep YouTubers will tell you the new manual is the Mercedes NSG 370, and that was true for the old JK Wrangler from 2007 to 2018. But the new JL Wrangler that came out in 2018 is not the Mercedes box anymore. It's actually the Aisin D478, made in Japan, and it's a totally different gearbox with different gears, a different clutch, and a whole new set of headaches. The shifter throws got cut by about 50%, and first gear jumped from 4.46 to 5.13, which means it pulls way harder off the line. Sounds great on paper, but that deeper first gear is also why this thing has been cooking clutches in driveways all over America. Before we trash the manual, let's talk about how scary good the automatic actually is. The auto in your new Wrangler is the ZF8HP, the same family of gearbox BMW drops in their M cars, and the same family Rolls-Royce uses. In the Wrangler, it's called the 850RE TorqueFlite 8, and Stellantis builds it at their Kokomo, Indiana plant. You're looking at 8 forward gears and buttery smooth shifts. Plus, Engineering Explained and Car and Driver have both called the ZF 8-speed one of the best automatics ever made. So when your uncle tells you autos are weak and only manuals are real Jeeps, he's stuck in 1995. This isn't some lazy slush box. This is a luxury car gearbox living inside a Jeep. Here's where the story gets dark for the manual crowd. Back in March 2023, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration dropped recall number 23V116, and Jeep called it Internal Recall 19A. It covered 69,201 vehicles, specifically 2018 through 2023 Wranglers and 2020 through 2023 Gladiators with the 6-speed manual. Of those, 55,082 are Wranglers and 14,119 are Gladiators, and the failure mode is genuinely scary. The clutch pressure plate gets too hot from friction, then it cracks, and then it splits open. When that happens, it can blow open the entire transmission case, and hot metal debris flies out of the bell housing. If that debris hits a fuel line or hot exhaust, you've got a fire in your driveway, and NHTSA already logged 1 injury at the time of filing. And that's not even the worst part of this whole mess. Here's what really makes mechanics shake their heads, because there's no clutch temperature sensor on this thing at all. Jeep just tries to guess how hot the clutch is by comparing engine RPM to wheel speed, and if their math thinks you're slipping the clutch too much, the truck drops into limp mode and cuts your engine power. That was Jeep's first fix, but it didn't work at all. The first recall covered 33,237 trucks, but then more started catching fire even after the software patch, so Jeep had to bump it up to the full 69,201 units we know about now. Motor Trend's Scott Evans wrote in his first drive that the clutch take-up was so vague, even his co-workers from JP and 4-wheel and off-road kept stalling. Car and Driver's Daniel Pund said even seasoned drivers were stalling the thing. That was a Jeep press event, where pro car reviewers were stalling brand new Wranglers right in front of Jeep employees. That's not a driver problem. That's a Jeep problem. A new clutch on these runs about $2,500 to $4,000 out of warranty, and there's an active class action lawsuit saying Jeep's torque cutting software basically ruins the engine they sold you. Before you write off the manual, the automatic has its own dirty secret. Jeep's owner manual tells you the ZF 8-speed uses lifetime fluid, so you never have to change it and you just drive it forever. Sweet deal, right? Well, ZF itself, the German company that actually built this transmission, says you should change the fluid around 93,000 miles or every 8 years. The mechanics on the 8-horsepower Dot Club forum, who rebuild these things all day, say change it every 50,000 miles if you tow or wheel the Jeep. So why does Jeep say lifetime? Because Jeep defines lifetime as the warranty period, not the actual life of the truck itself. If you trust the dealer and never touch the fluid, the mechatronic unit starts dying on you, which is the brain of the transmission with the valve body and computer all baked into one piece. When it fails, you're staring at a $2,000 to $4,000 repair bill. ZF flat out says Jeep is wrong about the lifetime claim, so change your fluid at 50,000 miles no matter what the dealer tells you. Before we keep going, If you want your Wrangler to last as long as possible, check out the 500,000-mile Jeep Blueprint. It's packed with the maintenance tips and mistakes that can save you thousands. The link is in the description below. Now back to the debate. Now we get to the part every Jeep argument lives or dies on, which is off-roading. This is where the forum fights start every single day. The JL Rubicon manual has a crawl ratio of 84.2 to 1, while the JL Rubicon automatic sits at 77.2 to 1. Crawl ratio is just first gear times transfer case low times axle ratio. So 5.13 times 4 times 4.10 gives the manual its 84.2 number. The deeper the number, the slower you can creep over a rock without the engine choking out. So on paper, the manual wins this fight. The 2026 Rubicon with optional 4.88 axle gears can even hit a 100 to 1 crawl ratio, but only with the manual, because the auto doesn't get those axles. So the manual must dominate the rocks then, but that's not what real wheelers say. Ask anyone who actually crawls rocks for a living, or ask the guys at Quadratec and Northridge, because they all say the exact same thing. The automatic destroys the manual in real technical terrain. The torque converter multiplies engine torque right at the launch, so there's no clutch to burn up on a slow obstacle, and the engine cannot stall on you. Both hands stay on the steering wheel where they belong. Hill descent control and select speed control work flawlessly on the auto. You just point the Jeep at the obstacle, lift off the brake, and it crawls right up. The manual has you juggling a clutch, a shifter, the wheel, a throttle, and a transfer case lever, all while trying not to slide off a cliff. So the manual wins on paper. But the auto is what real wheelers actually pick when their truck is on the line. But the manual has one trick the auto can never copy back. Engine braking is the manual's biggest secret weapon out on the trail. Lock the manual in first gear, drop into low range, and the engine itself slows you down on a steep drop without you even touching the brake pedal. And if your battery dies in the middle of nowhere, you can bump start a manual by pushing it down a hill and popping the clutch, and the engine fires right back up. Try doing that with an auto, and you'll be sitting there forever. So if you're a real overlander who goes deep into the backcountry with no cell service for miles around, that get-me-home simplicity matters way more than any crawl number on a spec sheet. Time to talk about towing, because the numbers here are brutal for the manual. The four-door JL Wrangler with the auto tows 5,000 pounds, while the same exact Jeep with the manual is rated at only 3,500 pounds. That's a massive 1,500-pound gap, and it's not because the manual gearbox itself is weak. It's because Jeep doesn't trust the clutch under a heavy load, and they really don't want more clutch fires happening. The auto gets a torque converter that multiplies torque from a dead stop, dedicated cooling, and a way better launch with weight behind you. The 4xe plug-in hybrid tows 3,500 with the auto. So if you ever plan to pull a boat, a trailer, or anything heavier than a kayak, the auto isn't really optional anymore. And fuel economy used to be the manual's home turf, but not anymore. Old wisdom said manuals always sip less gas, and that was true for decades, but not in the JL. The 3.6-liter V6 four-door with the manual gets about 18 miles per gallon combined, while the same V6 with the auto gets 20 combined. The auto is 2 whole miles per gallon better because 8 forward gears keep the engine in its sweet spot. The 4xe posts 49 miles per gallon equivalent with around 21 to 25 miles of pure electric range before the gas engine even wakes up. So even on gas mileage, the manual loses, and old Jeep guys absolutely hate hearing that one. Now stack up the recall history side by side, because the result is honestly ugly. The manual side we already covered, with 3 rounds of recalls and 69,201 trucks over clutch fires, plus recall 92A for a rear-view camera glitch tied to a gear position sensor on the manual trucks. The auto side has been almost completely spotless. The current ZF 8-speed in the JL has only had a few software updates over the years and 0 major recalls. So when you put these two recall lists right next to each other, the manual loses this round in a total landslide. By the way, you might have heard people blame death wobble on the transmission, but that's a total myth. Death wobble is a front-end steering and suspension problem, mostly on the 2007 to 2018 JK Wranglers, caused by worn track bar bushings, bad ball joints, or sloppy control arms. It has nothing to do with the manual or the auto at all. Let's get into long-term reliability, because most YouTube videos lie about this part. RepairPal data lists the Wrangler with an average annual repair cost of about $694 per year, with around 0.3 shop visits per year, and a 16% chance that any given repair is severe against an industry average closer to 12%. Consumer Reports rates the Wrangler below average for reliability, and the 2024 model alone got recalled 12 separate times in a single year. But when you actually dig into the long-term data from forums and shop mechanics who see these trucks every day, the picture gets really clear. The ZF Auto, if you change the fluid like ZF actually tells you to, will go 200,000 plus miles without breaking a sweat. The ASIN D478 manual gearbox itself is also reliable, because the gearbox really isn't the problem. The clutch is the problem. On most cars, clutches last 100,000 miles without an issue, but on the JL Wrangler, owners are reporting clutch failures at 40,000 to 60,000 miles, sometimes way sooner if they tow. The bigger story is that the manual is almost dead in America right now. According to the EPA's 2024 report, manual transmissions dropped below 1% of all U.S. new car production in 2021. They've stayed there ever since. Jeep itself told Jalopnik magazine back in 2016 that the Wrangler's manual take rate was between 10 and 20%. But when Motor One asked Jeep for an updated number in early 2024, Jeep flat out refused to share it. Forum estimates put the JL manual take rate around 5 to 10% now. Brutal for a truck that used to be a stick shift icon. For the 2026 model year, the manual is offered only with the 3.6-liter Pentastar V6. The 2.0 turbo is auto only, the 4xe hybrid is auto only, and the 392 V8 is auto only. The Wrangler and Bronco are now the only two new SUVs sold in America with 3 pedals. That's the end of an era right there. So now let's actually settle this whole argument for good. If you rock crawl for real, you tow anything bigger than a kayak, you want a truck your spouse can also drive, or you plan to keep the Jeep past 100,000 miles, the auto is better. That is an opinion at this point. That's just what the data flat out says. The ZF 8-speed is one of the best autos ever built. The V6 auto is more efficient, it tows more, it crawls better in real rocks, it has way fewer recalls, and it lasts longer with basic care. It really isn't close anymore. The manual wins on 3 specific things, and that's it. Driver fun, because shifting your own gears feels good in a way an auto can never match. Engine braking, because steep technical drops in low range with a stick just feel safer. And bump starting, because if you're stranded in the boonies with a dead battery, a manual can literally save you when an auto cannot. Outside those 3 things, the auto is better across the board. There's a 4th reason some people grab the manual anyway, and that reason is pure identity. The Wrangler manual is a heritage thing at this point, the last link to the old CJ5 and CJ7 from the 1970s. There's something special about being the last guy on the trail still rowing your own gears. If that matters to you, that's a totally valid reason to buy one. Just go in with your eyes wide open and know about the recall, the clutch bill, and exactly what you're signing up for. But please stop telling people the auto is for posers. The guys who actually wrench on these trucks every single day know way better than that. The auto is the smarter buy. The manual is the more fun buy. Both are still Jeeps, and both can get you anywhere on the planet. The real question just comes down to what kind of driver you want to be when you finally get there. So now I want to hear from you. Are you team manual or team automatic? And has your opinion changed after seeing the data? Drop your answer in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more Jeep insights every week. And click the video on your screen right now for another mechanic-approved Jeep guide. I'll see you there.